Hey everyone, Georgie here with Ukraine Matters. A lot of world's attention has been on the Moscow terror attack recently. In my recent stream, I talked about how we should treat it, and I explained everything in details. However, because of the YouTube complications, the stream video will not come online on this channel. Instead, I will probably slice and dice and put some slices from that stream as separate videos on the channel. That's unfortunate, but that's YouTube for you. But what the core of the argument that I made there is that Russia is not some innocent bystander that just happened to be struck by terrorist actions. Russia is not innocent at all. In the last 7 days, just the last week, over 190 missiles have been fired from Russia on the territory of Ukraine. Over 140 Shahed-type drones have been flying in with the purpose of striking civilian and military targets in Ukraine. And over 700 aerial-guided bombs were flying not for the tour, not for the sightseeing, but with the purpose of killing Ukrainians. So when we are seeing some kind of a terrorist attack, an event, horrific, absolutely troublesome, and again, separate video about this, but let us not be fooled and let us not forget that Russia and Russians are very much responsible and are encouraging, and currently there is a huge campaign of blame Ukraine for what Ukraine clearly has not been doing. It's been either an inside job by the Russians or a terrorist attack by ISIS. And we are now suddenly seeing Russians just using a lot of that narrative just to make sure that they blame Ukraine and so motivate even more Russians to go and kill Ukrainians for nothing. There is no factual base for that. And that is Russia. And we should never forget it. But continuing back to this, Ukraine is not taking a foot off the gas pedal as much as they can despite the resources. And just in the recent evening, we saw massive strikes against the Russians in Crimea. The reports are that strikes against the Sevastopol harbor and buildings inside of the city have been quite massive. Now, Russian side reports over 30 missiles fired. Russian side is not a trusted source, unfortunately. If you still believe the Russian side, what is wrong with you? But we can definitely kind of take the general idea that potentially some kind of massive strike has been there, especially because we've seen video of at least 6 explosions caught on camera. 3 of these explosions were against a building. Most notably, it's a Black Sea Fleet Intelligence and Radio Building. It's a building where they aggregate a lot of the information and intelligence that is necessary to operate the Russian Black Sea Fleet. Beyond that, there was also strikes against certain ships that were stationed in harbor. Those were Rapucha-class landing ships, which Russia is using to supplement the transfer of equipment to Crimea by the naval ways. Now, Ukraine has destroyed almost half of those ships that were available to the Black Sea Fleet, and if these 2 strikes against these ships would be confirmed, then that would push the total count of destroyed Rapucha-class ships over half of what Black Sea Fleet had. Unfortunately, the latest reports are, with the satellite images showing, is that the missiles hit close to ships, so potentially they did sustain certain damage from either shrapnel or stones or explosion wave, but no direct strike has been seen, like no consequences of a direct strike has been seen on these ships. So as much as we want these ships to be struck, let's stay realistic and let's continue following the situation on the ground. And the situation on the ground is very I cannot say favorable for Ukraine because like nothing is favorable, obviously, but Russia is not advancing. The recent news that we've heard is that Russia kind of captured Arlivka and Tonenki, but these are like minor settlements, and I will continue underlying that the defensive line that Ukrainians have built is this one, and we should be on the outlook whether or not Russians will continue advancing. That is not right now happening, and right now there is a little bit of a lull in action, in activity on the front line. Doesn't mean that there are no fights at all. It's just mostly there's like local things happening, local events. Maybe one group got nice intelligence and then the other group didn't, and then they were able to exploit certain positions, but nothing too crazy. We need to wait until this. Right now, it's also a mud period in Ukraine as well. And if we're talking about Ukraine defending against the Russian missiles and airstrikes, then what is interesting to know is that just recently, Ukrainian air defense have actually shut down Russian Zircon missiles. Very, very rare missiles, gotta say. Those, again, have been... have been touted to be Russian next super weapon. But I guess after Kinjal was essentially shown to be nothing more than air-launched Iskander missile, and it was able to be intercepted by the modern Patriot missile systems, then I think that they also took the kind of brakes off of Zircon that was supposed to be like a next-level missile for Russia. And now we see that even those missiles, the supposed next level, absolutely undetectable, untraceable, uninterceptable missiles have been successfully intercepted in Ukraine. So again, Russia is a terrorist state. They're doing terrorist action. These missiles didn't came for a field trip. They flew in Ukraine to kill Ukrainians. Go Ukraine. And one of the major stories that we have been following now is the crazy situation that Ukraine is in with ammunition. The fact that Ukraine is not getting the ammunition it needs. Now, I'm going to leave a link in description to a video that contains English subtitles. And that video is absolutely wild. In that video, you will see Ukrainian fighters and their everyday life and how are they trying to procure the ammunition that they need to fight this war. And they're doing it by basically deep diving into Russian trenches, or even better, deep diving into the swamps to fish out the ammunition that is stuck on Russian military trucks. That is absolutely wild. It's a story that if it would not be here on the video captured, that I'm not sure that anyone would believe. So give it a good look. It's pretty wild. It's pretty fun. And yeah, I only have encouragement to say and shameful words to say to all of the allies of Ukraine that still cannot get their shit together and support Ukraine. Most notably because this is bad. This is really, really bad that allies is not supporting Ukraine. And I'm thankfully also hearing from the US military the same narratives that I have been telling on this channel for so long. So here, for example, we can see, I believe it's Admiral Aquilino. If I mispronounce his name, again, sorry. And just listen for a minute of what he has to say.
I've described the security environment as the most dangerous I've seen in 40 years in uniform. And a big portion of that are the cooperation, number one, between the PRC and Russia. Again, in President Xi's words, a relationship that has not been seen in 100 years. And we should listen to him when he speaks. They tell us what they're thinking about. So that cooperation from those two authoritarian nations puts us in a different security environment. So I'm very concerned about that. It's amplified with regard to the DPRK supporting Russian in the form of ballistic missiles and other munitions and capabilities. My sense is this is a way to combat the broadened United States alliances, partnerships with our like-minded allies and partners. This is their counter. But I articulated, we're almost back to the axis of evil when you plug in Iran to this problem set. That set of cooperation is concerning, and it should be concerning to the whole globe.
So basically, he is saying exactly what I have been telling you all this time, is that Russia is forming the axis of evil with Iran, with North Korea, and that is threatening the global security. And I'm glad that while me, like a no-name guy on YouTube, has been telling you about, now a guy with the the number of his recognition stars or recognition awards is now so broad that they're barely fitting on his chest, is saying exactly the same thing. So please keep in mind that this is a dangerous situation we're in, and it's only if we continue pushing these narratives to the politicians to make sure that they remember that this matters, that we keep the efforts going, not just for Ukraine, but for our own future and for our own security. I want to finish by saying huge thanks to everyone that is watching, all of the moderating team that's making this channel going. And I want to say huge thanks to the Cardinal Birds. Some time ago, we did a fundraiser with them to help support the Ukrainian military, and they wrote a song, Ukraine Matters, and it's a great song, and they're a great band. I'm going to leave a link to them in description. Check them out. Check out the song. Here it is. I love you all. Slava Ukraini, and I'll see you guys next time.